Hello everyone and welcome to my spoiler-free review of Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. This is a movie that I really didn't have super high expectations for. I saw the trailer for it. It looked like it could be okay, but we all know how these adaptations go. Most game adaptations, whether that be tabletop, board games, or video games, they tend to not have a great track record. Also, I've only played Dungeons & Dragons like twice in my entire life, so I wasn't sure if this is the type of movie that would really appeal to me. After watching it, I can say that thankfully this movie really understands exactly what it is. It really understands the source material, at least from what I've experienced. And you don't have to be a D&D fan to really enjoy this movie. It's a very fun family type movie-going experience. But right from the get-go, I can see why people that play D&D on the regular would really enjoy this, because at the start, it really does kind of feel like it's introducing you to a D&D campaign. First and foremost, this is definitely a comedy, or more so an action comedy, but a comedy nonetheless, and the humor actually surprised me. I found the movie to be a lot more funny than I would have expected. It's definitely miles better than most of the junk that most recent comic book movies have been churning out on the regular. And this movie has a really solid cast too, and I think a lot of these actors are, I guess you could consider them A-listers, but they don't quite get the attention that they deserve. In my opinion, Chris Pine, this movie sort of reminded me that he's a really underrated talent out there right now, and he's really funny in this movie. His character is the protagonist, he's the one that gets the most depth, and he also has this sort of story arc with his daughter. It's really predictable, but in the context of this world, in this story, and knowing that this is sort of a comedy that doesn't really take itself too seriously, it works and you buy into it for the most part. Michelle Rodriguez is in this as well. She's sort of his partner in crime. She's really entertaining to watch on screen and really badass. It's nice to see her in something that isn't Fast and Furious. There are just all sorts of standouts in this cast. Every character sort of has one scene that I really liked. Reggae Gene Page, he was really cool. A couple of really badass fight scenes. Sophia Lillis plays a character that can transform into animals and creatures, so there's a lot of really fun sequences that they can play around with that in. And I think one of my favorite scenes in the movie makes use of her powers in a really cool way. Just this one really long, I don't think it was a one-take scene, but it really felt like they utilized that power to the greatest of their ability. Hugh Grant once again plays a snarky douchebag, but he's really good at playing snarky douchebags, so I enjoyed him here as much as I enjoyed him in Operation Fortune in the last couple of films that he's sort of played those type of characters. There's even a nice little cameo in this movie that I didn't know anything about going into it, and it was really amusing. The action, for the most part, is really well shot. It's fun, it's light, you can see everything that's happening for the most part. And one thing that actually really surprised me here is that there's a very nice blend of practical effects and CGI. The CGI looks good, granted, but it's nice to see them use practical effects in a movie that could have easily been just full CGI. Again, this movie is just ticking off boxes and reasons why I respect something like this a lot more than the average comic book movie that comes out as of late. It's just, you see a lot more passion, a lot more work put into these costumes and these creatures when you know that people are actually handcrafting the things that you're seeing on screen. As much as I had an absolute blast with this movie, it's definitely far from perfect. I do have some issues with it. The exposition in this movie is a real double-edged sword, because on one hand, I want them to flesh out the world and sort of teach us the rules of this world and sort of the geographical locations and whatnot. But it becomes a detriment when the characters have to explain things and they spend an entire scene explaining things right before we get to an important scene, and it's like, okay, you sort of just have to roll with the punches to a certain point, because a lot of the rules in this movie just sort of materialize as you go along. It's 2 hours and 15 minutes, and I would say there are probably a couple scenes that could have been shaved off. Like, there's a couple scenes in particular that I'm thinking of where characters walk into a pub, they discuss maybe a character that they need to find or a location that they're going to go to next, and then they leave. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if that scene really needed to be there. Also, the main villain of the movie is this wizard of sorts, and I didn't find her to be very compelling at all. Very bland, generic, but again, the way they visualize her powers and sort of how she factors into the story, I did appreciate that they put a lot of effort into that. Again, you've got Hugh Grant playing sort of a secondary villainous type of character, so it kind of balances out. You know, you don't really go into this expecting some big, riveting character arc for the movie's villain. You just want to be entertained, you just want to have fun. And again, if you're just looking for a fun family movie night, Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves definitely has you covered. Again, it's superficial, it's not a super deep movie, but it's funny. This is written by the people that wrote Game Night, I believe, and it really shows. A lot of the jokes are surprisingly funny. So if this does appeal to you at all, I think you'll definitely have fun with it. With that said, I'm going to give Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves 3.5 out of 5. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Definitely not the best movie of the year or anything like that, but it's fun. I was able to sit back, eat popcorn, and just enjoy what was playing out on screen, which I can never really complain about. So now I'm going to turn it to you guys. Let me know down in the comments if you've seen the movie, what you think of it. Are you a Dungeons and Dragons fan? And if so, does this movie sort of translate to the big screen as well as you would have liked it to? As always, be sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.